What is the ultimate test of faith? What is the ultimate test to determine if a person really does have faith? Is their faith genuine? Well, here's a simple test. How do you know if a person truly loves you or not? People say, I love you all the time, but regardless whether it's a husband or wife or mother, father, son, daughter, best friends, whatever the relationship might be, how do you know that person loves you? There's going to be some action. It's not just a matter of saying, I love you. If you say, hey, do you love your wife, like in my case? And I would say, absolutely. Is it possible for me to love her without showing her? In other words, if I never demonstrate that I love her with actions, how do you know? It's no different when it comes to faith. Now, I know someone's going to probably watch this video and they're going to say, what about Ephesians 2, 8, and 9? It says, by grace are you saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, lest any man should boast. Absolutely no question. We are saved by grace through faith. There's no question about it. Some people suggest that James, when he wrote his book, was contradicting what Paul said in Ephesians 2, 8, and 9, and that's not even possible because the book of James was written before the book of Ephesians. So if there was any contradiction, it would be the other way around. But there's no contradiction at all when you understand what they're talking about. Years ago, someone said, works will not save, but a faith that saves will have works. And just like when you tell someone you love them, there's going to be some evidence of that. There's going to be some fruit to demonstrate that you really do. Here in James chapter 2 and verse 14, he poses a question. He says, what does it profit, my brethren, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can faith save him? And literally he's saying, can that kind of faith save him? So let's just think about his question here. What does it profit? That is, what is the value or what does it benefit if someone says they have faith but they have no works? Is there any benefit to that? He goes on in the next verse to give an illustration to help communicate his point so that we understand he's talking about a specific kind of faith. That is a faith that has no evidence, okay? There's no action, there's no works. He says in verse 15, if a brother or sister is naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you says to them, depart in peace, be warmed and filled, but you do not give them the things which are needed for the body, what does it profit? So now let's think about his illustration to illustrate his question that he asked in verse 14. Is there any value to someone who says they have faith, but there's no works, there's no evidence of it? And so his illustration here in verses 15 and 16, you have someone who is naked, they need clothing, they need warmth, and someone who's hungry, they need food, and you come along and you say to them, be warmed and filled. So someone who's cold, instead of giving them something, you just say, hey, I just hope that you're really feeling warm today, and I hope that your belly is full, and you don't give them the things which are needed. What is the profit in that? And of course, the obvious answer to his question in his illustration is there is no profit to that. If someone is hungry and you don't give them any food, what is the purpose? What is the value? And of course, the answer is none. So he's asked his question in verse 14, what does it profit if someone says they have faith but doesn't have works? Can that kind of faith save the person? And then he gives an illustration of someone who has a need. They need some clothing to help them to be warm. They need some food to fill their belly. And you don't give them those things. You just go up and say, hey, be warmed and filled. Is there any value to that? And the answer is no. He says in verse 17, thus also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. In recent weeks here with the two devastating hurricanes that have gone through in the Florida and then the South, many areas are recovering and are going to take months and months to recover. Bridges have been washed out. Roads are gone. I saw an article that said the I-40, where North Carolina and Tennessee meet, it says it probably won't be till the year 2028 before that road is repaired. It's unbelievable, the damage. And there's a lot of people on the ground that are helping. and they're helping people who've lost everything to help restore their lives back to somewhat of some normalcy by helping them out, giving them things that they need, giving them food. Now, can you imagine if someone just went down there and seeing this devastation and this need, and people that need clothing and people that need shelter and people that need food, and they don't give them anything? They just come up and say, hey, I just hope that you're warm tonight when it's cold, even though you don't have a place to stay. Even though you're hungry, I hope your belly's full. And even though you're thirsty, I hope that somehow that thirst will be quenched, but you don't give them anything to help with those needs. What is the value? What is the benefit or the profit or the purpose of that? And the answer is there's none whatsoever. We're seeing amazing things with people on the ground that are helping. You know, they're rolling up their sleeves and they're helping people build things and put things back together, and they're working in very difficult and challenging conditions. They're giving folks water and food and clothing and all these things. What would be the benefit if you didn't do that? He says in verse 18, but someone will say, I'm sure there's probably people watching this video that are going to say something similar to this, but someone will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. So he poses a challenge here in verse 18. All right, you say you have faith and I have works, all right? But you don't have any works. You have faith. So here's the challenge. He says, show me your faith without works, all right? Just like telling someone who says they love you, show me that you love me without doing anything. Show me that you love me without any works to back up what you're telling me. So as he poses this challenge, you say you have faith. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but show me your faith without works. And then he says, I will show you my faith by my works. In other words, while you're trying to figure out some way to show you that you have faith without any works, without doing anything, he says, I'll show you that I have faith by my works, by putting my faith into action. And then verse 19 is an amazing verse. It says, you believe that there's one God, you do well, even the demons believe and tremble. And that word tremble there is, if you can picture a cat when it's scared and all of its hair stands up on end, that's what that word tremble is. In other words, they're absolutely terrified. They know who God is because he created them. And so the demons have a belief, during his ministry, when Jesus would confront someone who was demon possessed, we see several examples where the demon would cry out, we know who you are, Jesus of Nazareth. And on one occasion they said, have you come to destroy us, or have you come to torment us before the time or before the appointed time? So they absolutely knew who Jesus was. In the rest of this passage, he gives two illustrations, one of Abraham, beginning in verse 21, and the other one of Rahab. And at the very, very end, after giving those illustrations, and we're not going to look at them for the sake of time, but I encourage you to do that because they're very good illustrations. And in verse 26, he says, for as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is dead also. I heard an illustration years ago of a man who lived in a community where he had a rowboat and he took people across this lake and to where the town was, where they could go get supplies. And he went back and forth. It's kind of like a taxi on the water. And he was a believer. He had two oars. One he had carved or written in the handle the word faith, and the other one he had put the word works. And he would, take people to, the other side of the pond or lake and bring them back. And finally, one day, someone asked him, they said, hey, why do you have the word faith in one oar and the word works in the other one? And he kind of smiled. He said, well, I'll show you. He kind of brought the boat to a stop, and he took the oar that said works, he took it out of the water, and he took the one that said faith, and he started rowing on this side of the boat as hard as he could. Well, the result of that would be the boat just going in circles. It's not going anywhere. Then he kind of brought the boat to a stop again. He took the faith oar, laid it in the boat, and picked up the one that said works, and he started rowing on this side of the boat, and the boat started going in the circle in the opposite direction. Then he let the boat come to a stop, and he picked up both oars, faith, works, and he started rowing, and they started moving forward in the positive direction. It's a good illustration, one that's so simple to communicate exactly what James is saying here. Faith without works, if you say you have faith, but there's no works, there's no proof, there's no fruit in your life, then you too will be dead in the water. If you have faith, I encourage you to put that faith into practice. There's a lot of people right now in this world that are looking for someone to be genuine and real by demonstrating, not just saying I have faith, but as James says here in this passage, by putting that faith into action. Thank you for visiting The Essential Truth. This is Pastor Dave. You have a blessed day.